I'm Dr. Carrie Haley. I'm Assistant Medical Director with Regions EMS. I am here now with Chief Roy Mokosso from St. Paul Fire. So, Roy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's a privilege and honor to be back here again having this conversation, and definitely a very important conversation. So thank you.
So, again, telling us a little bit more about yourself and your background and really what's brought you into pre-hospital work in general.
Sure. I served in the Marines right out of high school. And really enjoyed that. Just the love of the opportunity to be in a service-related field. So enjoyed that. Went to college as soon as I got out for law enforcement, and then went back in the Marines and was a military police officer. Got out and then got recalled and deployed a couple times to Iraq, and then I came back from that, and then just was looking for an opportunity to serve within my community and still wear a uniform and still be part of a team and help and serve others. And so my wife was completely against law enforcement, and I saw an opportunity within EMS. So I applied for the St. Paul Fire Department after taking my EMT and got on, and I've loved the job ever since.
Very nice. Do you? How long have you been now with St. Paul Fire?
It'll be 13 years here in October. So
you've seen a couple things.
Yeah, a number of things, and life experiences before that. I got on the department when I was 32, so it's not one of those things where there's folks that get onto a department relatively young in their lives, and we're seeing more folks kind of come into public safety later on in life, and having had some personal experiences and some life experiences, which ultimately, whether that's being a father, a mother, or trades experience or anything like that, just allows them to be better within the fire and EMS service and contribute more. So
yeah, I think that it adds to that other element of diversity other than the race and the gender. You get a diverse amount of people then who can contribute little things or have new sort of perspectives on different issues that can only make the organization richer itself.
Absolutely.
So it seemed, at least from what we've talked at least a little bit here, that you seem to have a good interest in far as like the diversification and really making sure that we're representing our community. Can you tell me a little bit more about what specifically has driven that interest?
I can go back even further. So my mom was in the Peace Corps. She met my dad, and we lived in Cameroon, which is in West Africa. My dad is a native of Cameroon, so we lived there for the first 12 years of my life. So I was the tan kid with kind of a blonde afro. So I kind of stuck out there, and so race was kind of in my face from an early on in my childhood. And then we moved to the U.S. and again, I still didn't look like anyone else. And my sister and I always joke that we were mixed, before it was cool to be mixed, right? And so the conversations around race or diversity or just being different has been one that has just been thrust upon me, because people have always come up to me and asked me, what are you? And just it's so the opportunity to kind of have that conversation in a professional environment and also advance diversity and the thought process of it in the career field that I'm working. It's just kind of a unique meld of one thing that just has been thrust upon me, and another that is my career field. So
thinking about how maybe in the beginning of your career, so when you were just starting with St. Paul Fire to now where you have this great leadership role, do you feel that everyone along the way kind of just putting pieces in, or how have you been able to integrate diversity into your career?
Boy, really good question. I think it's in the service field, right? A lot it's a paramilitary organization, so there's rank, right? And on top of that, there is seniority based on number of years of service, and everybody kind of knows who's the most senior person or who our ranks are worn on our collar. So as a new person, you really just look for your opportunity to fit in. Don't make any mistakes. Just kind of get through your shifts safely and learn. And And then a lot of times you'll be at a station for one day and then you move on to another station. And I guess early on, that's all I was trying to do was fit in. And then as I, got some experience, I saw opportunities to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be as simple as, just realizing that, somebody that doesn't look like everybody else in the station might just, need to be welcomed and, shown around a little bit or mentored. And that kind of continued on. And I got into a role out within our training division and was involved with training 6 different fire academies.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, I've served on 4 different hiring panels. So just bringing some of my perspectives to those things were kind of the way I was able to get involved in the work. And
That's
then
awesome.
Chief Inks a couple years ago asked me to lead our department's equity change team. So with that, every department in the city has a change team, and the change team is focused on the city's efforts around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I lead that team now, and we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion in just a number of different facets from, station life, 24 hours in one station.
Yes.
Some of these buildings are 100 years old, and we just look at equity issues involving simple things like the use of the bathroom, showering, dormitory, and privacy areas. We look at policies. We look at recruiting and retention, and then also just looking at stuff that impacts the community in regards to things like training. So mentorship for our folks and just professionalism all around, which impacts the work as well.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the most important part about making St. Paul Fire or any organization diverse? What is one of the most key important things?
You can make an organization diverse and not have inclusion. I think you need to have that mindset of inclusion that, every member of the team or
Mm-hmm.
every person that is joining the organization has something to contribute, as opposed to, labeling individuals or, ostracizing or not making individuals welcome, because you can definitely have organizations that are diverse that are not inclusive.
Yes.
And, just through my experience and conversations with people around the nation, that you can have that, and you can have fire stations that these are where all the Black firefighters,
Mm-hmm.
bid into. This is where all the female firefighters bid into, and these stations are predominantly white. So you can have diversity within an organization, but the inclusion piece is the huge piece.
Yeah, I really like that. You can say the things on paper. You can have the numbers on your paper
Mm-hmm.
saying so much of your organization is African American, Hispanic, white, whatever. But if you don't make it a welcome place for them, there's no way that your organization necessarily is going to be able to grow.
Sure.
Then.
Absolutely. And to see the value of, inclusion in just simple things as language skills, right? Having somebody on a run that can speak the language of the patient and just has the ability to communicate with them. I mean, it's just one of those times where you're just glad that everybody on the crew isn't the same, right? So there's just great value to having, the toolbox analogy, right? You can't just have a toolbox of all hammers, because there's only limited things you can do. You need some screwdrivers in there. You need, in your world, I'm guessing, a scalpel.
Yes, those are always useful.
Yes. So there's other tools that are needed, and the fire engine as a toolbox concept is one of those things as well. We have multiple tools on it, and if our firefighters also have different perspectives and different skill sets, then we're truly able to tackle all hazards.
That's nice. Yes, I really like that. Just kind of thinking too about the recent events, here within our own state, next door neighbors to Minneapolis with the George Floyd murder. Do you feel that you've been approached now by even members of the fire service or outside of the fire service that are now like, hey, we're a little bit more interested. Hey, how do I get onto this equity kind of team?
Yes.
How can I help?
Yeah, what is this all about?
Mhm. Tell me more.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't been paying attention to the emails, but now all of a
Yes.
sudden there's an opportunity. It's like, hey, what can I do? Like, how do I join the conversation in a professional and respectful manner? Yes, there definitely is more interest, and I think that's nationwide as well. I'm fortunate to be on an elected human relations committee
Mhm.
for the International Association of Firefighters, and I represent veterans on the community, but we speak or talk to or train to, all diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. So, um, just on a national level, uh, there is a lot greater interest. Um, and then also at the local level too. I mean, we are currently working on a couple different statements, and we've been working actively within the community. We've been working also just to address some of the issues that our members are bringing to us
Mhm.
as well. So, and at the same time, we're also working on just better communicating what our change team does and what we stand for, as opposed to just kind of making it this group of women and people of color that are looking to change the fire department. There should be some very simple mission, vision, and goals, and we're working to communicate that with all of our members so that folks say, hey, you know what? I can identify with that. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a group that I would associate with, and how are there opportunities for me to get involved and do some of this work?
Yeah, because I think it will take everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. It's not reserved for the women or the people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Color. It's really an everybody issue that could affect everyone. So
Absolutely.
having everybody's input into it will be, I think, only better for the final outcome of whatever we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yes. Yes.
Do you think that as far as the community,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel that they've had positive feedback as St. Paul Fire has put more people of color, more women out um,
Yeah,
into their first responders?
I think absolutely. Having been involved in the last couple academy classes, I mean, we had a female or graduating class with 7 female firefighters in it, and it was like, wow, this is monumental. This is
Mm-hmm.
exciting. We had a grad in that same graduating class. We had 2 Somali firefighters, the first in the state and possibly the nation. So, a number of firsts there and some big steps, and those were broadly accepted as very positive. So,
I can only imagine as a community member,
mm-hmm,
if instead of being able to recognize somebody
mm-hmm,
who's coming to your alarm or coming to your community, can only be a better, positive experience rather than not being able to identify with anyone that
yeah.
is supposed to be there to help you.
Absolutely, and it also is a long process. And I just I think about, and forgive me if we segue to
Mm-hmm.
kind of the Pathways program, but our Pathways program started in 2009, and so this work has been kind of a long time in the making. It isn't a light switch that just turns on,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden you have a diverse workforce. Over 10 years of work has gone into this, and through the EMS academies, we've had 275 plus graduates.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is. It's a good number. And some would say, hey, how come all of those aren't firefighters? And it's, we have 15 firefighters on the job today that have graduated through our EMS Academy program, and 13 of those are paramedics, predominantly people of color and
Mm-hmm.
women. So the program is working. It's just one of those things that is a work in progress and it takes time. But through those graduates too, we have a number that have gone on to med school, a number that have gone on to nursing school, are working on becoming PAs, are paramedics for private agencies, are working within law enforcement, are working within 911 dispatch, or working within EMS in different capacities, whether it's the emergency rooms
Mm-hmm.
or for other private ambulance services. So,
I mean, it's just like a stepping stone. So, speaking of the Pathways program, again, for those who don't know as much about it,
mm-hmm.
would you mind explaining a little bit more? I know you mentioned it started back with 2009.
Yes.
Expand upon that just to let
Sure.
people know what
We
it is.
typically host 2 different EMS academies a year, and they are designed for folks coming from low income areas, predominantly diverse candidates, there is an application process, and folks are given a stipend to attend EMT school. So tuition, books, and a stipend are all included within the EMS Academy. And these typically run about 2 times a year. Recently, we've had an opportunity to partner with Ramsey County, where Ramsey County has provided the funding for, again, the tuition, the books, and also the stipend. And we've been the host site providing the educational piece. So what's really been great about it now is that we have had folks that in our earlier classes that are now on the department and are now our mentors and also instructors for the academy. So the folks within the academy see instructors that they can relate to that look like them. And just the success rate has been great.
Yeah, no, it has been such a successful program. And so some of my questions would be, I think a lot of organizations right now are like, oh, how do we start down this path of trying to get more diversity and inclusion, and what things are successful, what hasn't been successful. So could you maybe talk to some points that specifically you've done within the Pathways program that you feel has made it such a successful thing?
Sure. Boy, another really good question. I don't know that you can ever point to like one thing. It's just casting the net, pretty broad and wide. And where you find success, you try to tap in that again, whether it's working with community groups or attending community functions, or recruiting from the high schools, or whatever it ends up being. I mean, we typically, from a recruiting aspect, throw the net out pretty wide. And initially, we had a lot of applicants for the EMS academies, and like anything. There was a lot of excitement initially, and then it's kind of plateaued. So, every EMS academy, we do our best to recruit as many applicants as possible, so that we get the best applicants, or a great applicant pool to put into the EMS academy. Because believe it or not, I'm college educated, and the EMT National Registry test is one of the toughest tests I've ever had to take. So it is a challenging process. So, we definitely want the best applicants. So.
Yes, I think that too. I was just thinking also, like, with it being with the recruitment aspect of things, is that something that it's more like, hey, we kind of just put it out there and waited for them to come, or were there any specific like targeted acts that you did to pull people in who may not have been able to access the information otherwise?
I feel like we're constantly recruiting. One of the nice things about the EMS Academy is that because we'll have 1 or 2 classes a year, there's an opportunity for us to kind of recruit 2 times a year for something. And that might be as simple as, being at a community event and someone saying, hey, how do I become a firefighter? And it's like, well, one of the things you need is your EMT. And by the way, we have this EMS Academy coming up. And then we usually have little information cards that are in all the engines that folks can hand out and go to our website, get information on. The use of social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, even Snapchat, to get information out and just kind of communicate with folks, the younger generation, the way that they communicate.
Yes.
And then there's always word of mouth. Working with churches or community groups and going there and, speaking maybe not directly to the youth of today that will be in the EMS Academy, but at a church or something like that after, you're speaking to, the parents or the grandparents of folks that will say, hey, you know what, I've got somebody that would be perfect for that. And then they bring the information to them. So there's a number of different network channels that we continually try to use to engage and kind of,
Yeah, no, I really like that, because I think that sometimes what happens is people get really motivated to do things and then just kind of lay out information, but not necessarily seek out the groups that they are trying to get that information to. So I think that that would be one big learning point for others. I think that, being intentional about going out and into the communities and really amping up more that outreach portion of their work will maybe help draw people in that otherwise wouldn't just go specifically looking for the information themselves.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you can have the information on your website, but if people don't know that information is there, it won't be sought out. So, there is some intentional work again that needs to happen with it.
And I also think it's neat now that you do have the graduates who are on the fire service, so they can actually see, they did this.
Yep,
they're here. Like, it's actually a possibility rather than having people who don't look like them or don't have their history telling them about it. It just probably doesn't have the same effect or resonance.
Absolutely. And it's friends of friends. It's a lot of times the reason I'm on this job today, or why I even applied for the St. Paul Fire Department, was a friend of mine from the Marines said, "Hey, you should check out the fire department. I'm applying, this is going on." And then I didn't, and they got on, and then he still was like, "Hey, you should check out the fire department. It's a great job." And I was like, "Okay, well, let me check this out. What's this all about?" So there's a lot of word of mouth as well. And there's credibility with that too, because if someone is telling you something, then it's real world experience. It's real life experience. There's a high probability that you'll share that same experience.
One other thing I just kind of want to touch on too now is we've had the success, or St. Paul Fire has had the success with the Pathways program, getting firefighters that are women, of color. What do you feel like is in the perfect world? What would be your next goals in terms of diversity and inclusion within the department?
Boy. Also a great question. And I think, just kind of going back to, the number of graduates that we've had and where those graduates are today, from medical school to paramedics for private ambulance services to St. Paul firefighters to EMTs for private ambulance services. The work that goes into this doesn't just, benefit the St. Paul Fire Department. It benefits the individuals, and it definitely benefits the community and other organizations. So it's always hard when we lose somebody that we've had in this pipeline to another fire department. And it's like, just because our timeline for hiring did match up with their life needs, right? And when presented an opportunity, they took it. But I think the department continues to look for opportunities not only to diversify this department, but also just to benefit the young members within the community. The department just last year started the EMS Academy. Folks that graduate from that have an opportunity to work at Station 51 and do our BLS transport. So we're employing folks there, as well as an opportunity to go into our fire medic cadet program, which is another paid opportunity for them to attend paramedic school and kind of continue to advance their skills and their education. But the department last year also started a BLS response. So great program. Hiring a number of folks that had previously been in our EMS Academy. So responding to the lower level calls, allowing our ALS services to stay in service and our fire apparatus to also stay in service for the more severe calls. So an opportunity was presented last year. We moved forward with it, and it's benefited the department and benefited a number. Well, I would just say it has benefited the department. So looking at other opportunities, the department's looking at a community EMT program. So again, looking for opportunities to employ those recent graduates from the EMS Academy and utilizing them within the community to either follow up on recently discharged patients, helping individuals potentially with issues in their home, identifying safety factors, and just following up on potentially frequent users of the 911 system to just help identify what exactly the need is and just better serve those individuals.
Yeah, and I think that would be the perfect kind of group if the people, especially coming from the communities, to be out then able to serve the community within maybe a different context than the 911 service, but really being able to understand probably a lot better than someone just coming in from who knows where, trying to understand those more complex dynamics that may be limiting their access to care.
Access to care, or just comprehension. I mean, again, language is a barrier, and so just again, an opportunity to not only better serve the community's needs by utilizing the skill sets of individuals and the life experiences of other individuals, and so just another concept that we continue to work towards. So
those are all really, really good things. And I don't know if you have any other closing thoughts or closing questions or any other subject that you yourself want to
Sure.
bring up.
Boy, I don't. I feel like I should.
No.
No. What I would say is that it's just we're in a very interesting time. I think a lot of what is happening today, whether it's the murder of George Floyd or some of the conversations around race, can be politically charged, and people are quick to form their opinions. Their opinions come from potentially not lived experiences, but other people's experiences that are reported through social media or mainstream media even. And in the world of public safety, which we live in, it kind of seen kind of a negative downturn towards all of public safety, to include the fire department. I remember just a couple days after the unrest within the city, just being in a rig, responding to calls, and seeing people flick us off. And I was just like, we're the fire department.
Yes.
We're fire and paramedics and EMTs, and this isn't usually the response that we get responding to calls. So it definitely does feel like there has been a loss in trust that impacts all of public safety. Mm-hmm. So it's just a different and difficult time. It's going to take some time to kind of regain that trust. But what I can say is that, having a workforce that reflects the community we serve, instantly builds that trust, or not instantly, but goes a long way towards, not having to justify or, prove or anything else. The credibility is instantly there. So
yeah, no, I think I agree with that. And I think that, it is a really, really hard time for us right now. And I know, like, you with public safety and me as an emergency medicine physician, we just want to fix things. Mm-hmm. We want to make things better, like right now. We want that instant fix. But as you kind of talked about with the Pathways program, it is going to take time. But there are things that we can do now to hopefully start swaying things back towards that trust. And one of that is putting more people that reflect the community out into the streets, being more present, and trying to just hearing each other's stories and seeing what we're all about. Because I think that's one thing that we just don't get especially with social media. Like, you get the one blip. You don't get to hear everybody's full history and story.
Yeah, and in our profession, we need to, meet people with, compassion and kindness, and work towards, spending that 30 or 45 minutes you might spend with the individual, really getting to know them and their issues or problems, so that you can best, help or serve them. So it goes a long way.
It does. I think so too. And so I'm just thinking too, kind of as for my closing, as we have a partnership between St. Paul Fire and Regions EMS, we have a lot of learners within our region's emergency medicine program. Can you think of anything that maybe we can partner on, or ways that we can work together, since we're serving the same community? We're serving the people of St. Paul, in order to help build that trust back, or help diversify and include more the breadth of what is St. Paul.
Yeah, I think this conversation obviously is a great place to start, and anything within regions. It's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, if there are opportunities to support some of our pathways
Mm-hmm.
programs, I think that would be great. If there's an opportunity to partner and have St. Paul Fire, partner with you all on different pathways programs that you all might be working on, I think there would be great opportunities there. Um, of note, I spoke a little bit about Ramsey County, but one
Mm-hmm.
of the things that we're working on for our winter academy is an EMS academy, and it would be an all-female academy. So Ramsey County, through this partnership, would again tuition, books, fees, and also the stipend, as well as vouchers for childcare, because
Oh, that's
that
huge.
is a huge
That's huge.
barrier for women, younger women who have had children,
Mm-hmm.
as far as exploring new opportunities for work or seeking out education. So it's just, again, another novel or unique concept and built through that's going to be through a partnership with Ramsey County. So
Oh,
whatever
that
those
sounds
partnerships
amazing.
would look like, I think there's plenty of opportunity out there.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, I can't speak for my organization necessarily, but I think that there has been more interest from a lot of people within, especially our emergency department and
Hmm.
kind of a lot of other organizations in general, even not just regions, other healthcare organizations within the city is just really trying to figure out what can we do. And I think if we can work together with already things that have been established
Hmm.
and expanding upon them, that I think would be, instead of reinventing the wheel
Sure.
necessarily, and just trying to really make that work for everybody and find maybe better ways
Hmm.
or different ways to do it too.
Yeah. And I guess it starts with some of the conversations we had the first time. Is just looking at your numbers and
Mm-hmm.
seeing, are you a diverse organization, and where, and maybe even looking to where you've had success within recruiting diverse populations, and looking at that information too. So
Awesome. All right, Chiefs, thank you for being here again today. I really appreciate your time and that we're able to really move the conversation forward. I'm really looking forward to continuing to work with you with our partnership between Regions, EMS, and St. Paul Fire.
oh, thank you for having me, and I look forward to continued conversation.